Hey, welcome back to Happy Hour. We have Young Guns going on right now, a special edition presented by Cool Breeze Marine, the prop specialist. And today we have 18-year-old Kristen Cora, an author at just 18 years old. Kristen, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I am very impressed about reading about the history of your life. And at the age, as pretty much as soon as you were able to crawl, you were crawling around the house tying knots, tying anything that was like ropes or wires or whatever into knots. Yeah. How did this come about? What happened?
I don't know. I just picked up a jump rope one day and tied it in a knot, and I've been tying knots ever since.
So you started with knot tying, and then at the age of 2, you just automatically fell in love with horses. You didn't live on a farm where there was horses, right?
No, we had dogs and chickens and goats, but no horses.
And then all of a sudden you just started loving horses.
Yep.
And you still love horses, right?
Yes.
And you work around horses now, right?
Yes. I'm retraining a rescue horse currently.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So what goes into retraining a rescue horse?
First is just getting to know the horse and seeing what traumas they might have, trying to get them through that. Like this horse, she was so head shy, if I even went to brush out her forelock, she'd just completely freak out and take off across the pasture.
Gotcha.
If I stepped on a leaf, same thing.
She would just get scared, like spooked out?
Yes, like she would lose her mind. But now I can like run through the leaves, she's fine with that. If I go to bridle her, she'll fall asleep. I can get on her now. I actually just took my first ride on her in several months, and she did very well.
And I would assume the learning of tying knots is really handy now when you're working around horses, because I know you have to tie up the horses all the time. Yes. So you went from tying knots to the love of horses at 2 years old, to then writing a book. How do we get from tying knots to writing a book? What was your inspiration behind the book that you wrote?
Kind of just different things throughout my life have given me some inspiration for it, but a couple years ago I was watching some Westerns and a new episode came on. It was just a random episode. I'd never seen the show before, but it was Laramie, and I was like, well that's kind of neat, and I got an idea that had nothing to do with the show, and during that hour-long episode I wrote chapter 1 of Outlaw Trail, and I read it, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to write this book and publish it. So
now where was your love of Westerns? Was that from your love of just horses and you just couldn't get enough horses and you had to watch Westerns? Or was this something that like parents or grandparents would sit down with you and watch Westerns? Or
I think it was the love of horses, but also my grandparents would watch Gunsmoke. And Grandpa Darrell would watch The Rifleman. So that's what I started off on. And I started watching Westerns on my own, and I found Laramie, and I watched that a lot.
And you're like, okay, this is the thing. So from that, watching that, you started writing this book. What is the process of writing a book? Like, I've never even thought about chapter 1, chapter 2, like the building of the book. How does that go about from start to finish?
Well, it's different for everyone, but for me, I just started writing, and wherever my mind led me. Sometimes I would write in the middle, the end. Like I started with chapter 1, then I wrote the middle of the book, and then just kind of wherever, then I filled in the gaps and bridged it. And what's kind of interesting is I didn't know what happened in the end because I was so tired as I wrote it, and I was so tired. It was almost Christmas, and I wanted to give the book to my best friend, just the PDF copy. And I just wrote it, gave it to her, and fell asleep. She read it that night, and the next morning she's like, whoa, I loved that ending. That was awesome. And I was like,
you're like, hang on, there was an ending?
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's right, I did finish it. What happened? And she's like, well, go read it. So I did, and I was like, oh, well, that's neat.
So you pretty much wrote it in your sleep. Okay,
yes,
so
I did that a lot.
That has blown my mind, because I'm not 18, but I can't write a book to save my life. I don't think so. And you write one in your sleep.
Well, some parts, yes.
That's Young Guns for you, just the talent that you have for this. So now, in the process of your writing, were there times that you would, sit down with mom and go, hey, why don't you read this chapter? Does this make sense? Or do you have any ideas? Or giving it to your friends? Or
There, towards the end, I did. Once I completely finished it, I had Hannah go through it, and then my mom read it out loud to my family, just so we could catch anything that, should be changed. And then I went through editing it, and then sent it off to my editor, and went on from there.
So really the concept and the idea of like, I need to sit down and write a book, that wasn't how it started.
No.
You just watched the show and then you were like, I have an idea. I'm going to write something here. Next thing you know, you're a chapter into a book, and then you think, well, if I'm a chapter in, what's a few more chapters, right?
Yep, there are 32.
32 chapters in, and it's Trail Dusters Outlaw Trail by Kristen Cora, 18 years old, and you're homeschooled, right?
Yes, I was.
And so you graduated homeschool.
Last year.
And you have plans for another book?
Yes, there are at least 2 more.
Oh my goodness. Now, are they all, like, do you like that Western feel, or are you trying to do different things, or what?
Well, I really love writing Westerns, and that's what I'm going to do first, but I do have plans for other books, like historical fiction set during the Age of the Vikings, and some more modern war-themed kind of books, but Westerns is what I'm starting with.
And so as far as being a young Western writer, are there any limitations, like you think of, your Western writers are probably older and Western and, grew up around horses or whatever. And so as a young writer, are there things that you have to overcome to get your message out, if you will?
Not really that I've come across so far. A lot of the people so far that have been interested in my book have been, honestly, it's a big age gap. I've had 11 to in their 80s so far. So
I could imagine, because a lot of people see a young writer and they're like, well, I want to get in on this. I want to read what she wrote. And then there's a lot of your Western, because of course my grandparents, I think they had every Western book in their library. And so, there's older folks that would like to read it as well. So where could someone go about getting a hold of Trail Dusters Outlaw Trail?
You can go to my website, kristencora.com, and you can go to the shop page, or you could click on the photo or title of the book, and it'll take you there. So. And
as far as your next book, what's your, is this something that you go, okay, I try to sit down once a week, or do you just sit down when you have ideas where you go, hang on, I got to jot something down here? How does that go? Do you have voice memos all the time on your phone of just ideas? It's just whenever I have the idea, I always carry a notebook with me. Sometimes I'll just talk into my phone as I'm doing dishes or whatever, and sometimes the phone has trouble understanding what I'm saying because it doesn't understand those old words. So I have to go through there and retype it. But. Oh, wow. Yeah, I can imagine that. I can imagine. So you heard her talk about doing dishes. So even as an amazing author, when you're 18, you still have to do your house chores, right? Yes. So you can help support Kristen Cora. Make sure you check her out online, kristencora.com, and check out her new book. And of course, probably several new books coming after that. I am so impressed with having you on the show, and thank you again so much for coming out. And good luck with all your next books that you have coming out. Thank you. All right. Well, we have a lot more of Happy Hour coming up right after this.